This is a warning that the next few seconds are going to be rather loud and chaotic. That clip that you just heard is probably what you feel like is happening all around you as you have tried to adapt in your new working from home mindset. And the rest of this episode, this bonus episode of Hustleburg, is a conversation in which I talk about how you can kind of mitigate some of the anxieties and some successful strategies for what we're now finding is our new workplace. Welcome to a bonus episode of Hustleburg. In this one, we're going to be talking about a lot of the things that have changed as a result of coronavirus or COVID-19. We're actually recording this on the day that Pinellas County orders a stay-at-home order for the coronavirus, and it's going to be released the day after that it takes effect. And I'm having a conversation with Morgan Dean. She is a law student at Stetson University College of Law. She also happens to be my partner, and we're talking about some of the things that we're anxious about or that we are concerned about and how we can kind of mitigate some of those concerns as we face this, what has become at least a temporary new normal. So I'd like to welcome Morgan to the show.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome.
So, Morgan, in our dynamic, generally speaking, I'm more of a calming presence, whereas you might be perceived as a bit more anxious. And I know that when it comes to this particular situation in particular, you've been very consuming of the news and have let it worry you probably a little more than I would like. But tell people a little bit about some of the things that you're experiencing as a student who is having gone from going to class to now all remote for the remainder of the semester, and kind of the things that have changed about your routine and things that are making you anxious about this new normal.
Yeah, so it's definitely weird. I got used to going to campus to study in the library and see people from my classes, as well as attend class, and now none of that is happening, which is really weird. So one of my classes is recorded. It's not even live, so that's very... there's like no interactive element now, which is tough, especially in law school where so much of it is like discussing the law and trying to figure it out like as a class, really, because we're all in the same boat. The other class is live using a Zoom-like technology through Blackboard, so that's nice because you at least get that interactive element. But yeah, like you said, I consume a lot of news, obsessively, I would say, a little bit. And, you know, I'm kind of also a insomniac, and so this is not an ideal situation. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of changes, and I know we're seeing a lot of changes in the small business community here in St. Pete. And yesterday was the Great American Takeout Day.
Oh yes, Tuesday was Great American Takeout to help support some of the restaurants, small business restaurants, as they try to adapt to a to-go and delivery-only model for the foreseeable future. So as you're moving off of campus and doing more of your studying at home and even classes at home now, what are some of the struggles that you're finding that you're having?
Well, I think it's just like the lack of the routine and the like lack of stability in a way, like. And it is a little, like, I am an introvert and I'm a homebody to an extent, but it definitely starts to wear on you. I think I'm on day 12.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Of not leaving the house except to go to the grocery store. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely weird. I'm finding, like, it's kind of, sometimes it's hard to focus when I'm working on class stuff, especially with like the craziness that is having 2 rambunctious dogs and a crazy cat. So that's a little difficult. And I think some of it is also the changes that are potentially happening in our grading system, moving from GPA based to potentially pass fail. You see, there's a lot of positives and negatives on both sides, but this is definitely a difficult semester and very unorthodox, and I think everybody's just trying to adjust to it the best they can.
Well, I think people that are home from their everyday jobs are certainly trying to adapt to conference calls and Zoom being a part of their everyday life. And we did insert a little bit of audio at the beginning of this episode to give you a taste of what that chaos can feel like, if only for a few seconds there. But, you know, you've got kids and dogs and things going on in the background that are certainly distracting, and hopefully most of our small business people are remaining open if they're essential, or if they are unable to remain open, they're doing some things, as I am, to, you know, plant some of those seeds for longer term projects and goals, to make sure that down the road we're going to be successful, even if in the short term we're having some struggles. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we talked about today is focusing on what you can control. You know, you talked about the change in grading and everything being at home now and just a topsy-turvy world. You know, a lot of people who have kids in the school systems, school is at home for either the foreseeable future, possibly through the rest of the school year. And so with those closings, you know, really we have to remember that the only thing that we can control is ourselves, and try to do a little bit about the environment around us. And one of the ways that I found to be useful, and I think that you have as well, is if you figure out a daily routine, you know, where you're getting up at kind of the same time, you're making sure that you're getting whatever stretching or exercise or physical activity, you know, make sure you're working that into your day, and making sure that you're departing your quote house to get to your quote office, even if you're just segregating where you do that work from the rest of the house, so that when you're sitting there, it does feel like you're at work, because it's a situation where you're setting that routine. Okay, this is home me in this new world, and this is work me when I'm in this space. And
yeah, I think it can also help. I haven't personally tried this because I'm kind of lazy, but I think it can also help to get ready like you're going to work. You know,
oh,
like,
absolutely.
If you're someone who wears makeup, putting on, like, I mean, you know, you can be a little comfier than you would be at work maybe, but still putting on, you know, real clothes and not just like your pajamas, which, like I said, I haven't been great about, I have to say, but I think that can help as well from what I've heard from other people.
Well, for sure. It's a mindset shift. You know, you're moving from home you to work you. So it's not just an environment thing. You have those routines that you've set for yourself. You maybe don't have the commute that you did. Maybe it's a lot shorter as you go from the living room to the office, or the bedroom to the office, or just to a desk that's separated from a lot of the things that are going on in the house. And you mentioned earlier, we talked about your overconsumption, or I think you called it obsessive consumption of the news, specifically with regard to the coronavirus. And I've, for the most part, kind of stayed away from that, focusing on not really consuming, because I know that you're going to tell me anyway what's happening. Although I have been very focused on what's happening with the small business community and locally here in St. Pete and Pinellas County. You know, that overconsumption of the news, when we have a 24-hour news cycle, that's constant. You know, there's always something new coming out, and that can add a lot of stress.
Yeah, I think it's also that even if you're not like looking up news specifically, you're just on Twitter because you want to see some funny memes or whatever, you're still inundated with it constantly, because it's really the majority of the content out there right now. So I think it's difficult to avoid. I've been trying to take a break from social media in general, because it's just everywhere, even on Instagram, which is just amazing that you can make a site that's all pictures about the coronavirus.
Well, and I'm seeing it too. Generally, my feed is a lot about what's happening locally, and you know, what's happening for small businesses, and what's happening in tech and marketing. And so I'm seeing that has been overtaken by news about coronavirus, and, you know, all the closings and infections and testing. And
yeah, it would seem that there is, in a way, like trying to look on the bright side, because I'm trying to do that more.
Yeah.
It would seem that there'd be an opportunity for small business owners with utilizing like social media and virtual events, I guess, right now, because
Sure.
I'm seeing a lot of that, which is interesting.
I actually saw a virtual happy hour the other day on
Yeah.
Facebook Live, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of nice because everybody is missing that like social connection, even us introverts, I have to say.
Well, one of the other things that I think we have been working on together to help reduce stress is being more mindful and meditating a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
We're also spending more time with our 2 dogs and a cat.
They're very comforting.
They are very comforting, and it gives that time spent there. I'm sure that they are thinking that we don't do it enough as it is. So they're appreciative of it as well. And then just taking a break when we need to take a break, because it feels like you don't get to when you blend the home and work or home and school. Mm-hmm. You don't really have that opportunity to take that break. So we're doing a little more when it comes to recreation with regard to just kind of watching things or checking out a little bit, and painting for some of us, not for me, because I know that would be terrible. But
oh, it's terrible for me too.
Okay.
Not painting well.
So is there anything as we wrap up, that you want to share, some of the tips or tricks that you want to share that you found useful for you in this kind of, I guess I'll call it, new normal?
Yeah, I think it's just the little things, the day-to-day things, meditating, getting outside. Like I went outside in the yard the other day and filled up our kiddie pool. That's actually what we bathe our dogs in. I cleaned it first. I filled it up with water, and I put a chair right next to it and dipped my feet in and read a book, and I felt like I was kind of at a pool. Not really, but it helped a little bit. It helped to like get the sun and feel nice. So doing things like that maybe seem a little crazy to our neighbors perhaps, and yeah, just reading for fun, that's been helping me a lot. Taking walks, getting that exercise, doing virtual yoga classes, that's been helpful. Hula hooping, that's fun. Virtual hula hooping classes are also fun, by the way. So yeah, I think it's the day-to-day things, and I think those things help shift the mindset, because I think that's the most important thing. But I know it's hard, and I think everybody's feeling it differently, and we're just gonna get through this together, I think.
Well,
but separate.
Together but separate. I like that. Well, I want to thank you for taking a little bit of time to chat with me today, and I hope that those of you listening have enjoyed hearing that you're not alone, and that everybody is kind of struggling with their own things with the adaptation to what we're having to kind of do right now. And hopefully we were able to share a little bit about how you can make the situation that we find ourselves in just a little bit better. Hey, you did it! You've just listened to Hustleburg. To thank you for listening, we have a free guide to help you get started marketing your business online, aptly named our Getting Started Guide, available at beyondyoursidehustle.com/gettheguide. See how to begin with the first 3 things you should be doing for your business. Speaking of businesses, if you're a small business owner in St. Pete and you'd like to be a guest on an episode of the podcast, please let us know at beyondyoursidehustle.com/podcastguest. If you got something of value from this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast app. This is something small that you can do to help us shine the spotlight on all the great businesses St. Pete has to offer. The music in this episode is Defining Your Dreams by my friend Rhymer Educator. You can listen to his latest single, The Last One, on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to great music. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to sharing with you how we do business in the Burg.